At the beginning of Leadership 4, I took time to reflect on who I was as a leader, and this SWOT analysis became one of the most important starting points in my leadership journey. One of the key strengths I identified was my ability to manage my time effectively, especially when I am working under deadlines. I learned that I am able to prioritize tasks, break with large responsibilities into manageable parts, and remain focused even when the pressure is high. This strength has helped me meet academic and team expectations consistently. Another key strength was my ability to connect easily with people. Building relationships comes naturally to me, and I am often able to create a sense of trust within teams. This has allowed me to collaborate effectively, communicate openly, and contribute positively to group environments. However, this SWOT analysis also pushed me to be honest about my weaknesses. One challenge I noticed was my struggle with patience, especially when progress is slower than I anticipate. I tend to become frustrated when outcomes do not align with my expectations, and this sometimes affects how I respond to others. I also identified difficulty in delegating tasks as a weakness. I often take on more responsibilities than necessary because I feel more comfortable doing things by myself. While this comes from a desire to ensure quality, it can lead to burnout and limit the growth of others within. Looking outward, I recognize several opportunities available to me. Attending networking events and career fairs presented valuable chances to connect with professionals, learn from their experience, and broaden my network. In addition, engaging in internships offered the opportunity to gain hands-on experience and apply leadership concepts in real-world settings. At the same time, there were clear threats I could not ignore. The presence of many highly qualified individuals competing for the same opportunities meant that standing out would require more than just academic success. Furthermore, the fast pace of technological advancements highlighted the risk of becoming outdated if I failed to continuously learn and adapt. This SWOT analysis marked a significant milestone for me. It gave me clarity about where I was starting from, and emphasized that leadership development is not accidental. It requires intentional growth, self-awareness, and consistent effort. This was the foundation upon which the rest of my Leadership 4 journey was built. Leadership 4 challenged me to rethink everything I thought I knew about leadership. Through servant leadership, I learned that leadership is not about carrying everything alone. It's about creating space for others to contribute and trusting them with responsibility. The concept of Ubuntu reinforced this idea for me. It reminded me that leadership is relational, that progress is collective, and that my success is tied to the success of others. This made me reflect deeply on my own difficulty with delegation. I realized that refusing to let go of control wasn't just about efficiency, it was about trust. Learning to delegate became an act of respect rather than risk. Leading quietly also reshaped how I viewed patience. I learned that not all leadership impact is immediate or visible. Sometimes leadership means waiting, listening, and allowing processes to unfold. By the end of the semester, my SWOT had evolved. I became more aware of when to step in and when to step back. I began to see patience and delegation not as weaknesses but as leadership skills, and I needed to intentionally develop. At 70 years old, when I look back at my life, I do not measure my leadership by titles alone. I measure it by the people I served, the communities I strengthened, and the values I carried consistently, even when no one was watching. After completing Leadership 4, one of my earliest milestones was learning how to lead without needing to be the loudest voice in the room. I discovered the power of leading quietly by listening deeply, asking thoughtful questions, and creating space for others to contribute. This was not easy for me at first, especially because I used to take on responsibilities myself. But through experience, mentorship, and reflection, I learned that leadership is not about control, but about trust. This stage of my life taught me humility. It reminded me that leadership begins with self-awareness and a willingness to grow. As my career progressed, Ubuntu became more than a concept I learned in class. It became a way of life. I am because we are. This philosophy shaped me. It shaped how I approached teamwork, decision-making, and community engagement. Rather than asking, how do I succeed? I began asking, how do we succeed together? I invested in people, mentored younger colleagues, and created environments where collaboration mattered more than competition. Servant leadership guided my actions. I focused on empowering others, advocating for fairness, and ensuring that leadership decisions improved not just outcomes but lives. One of the most defining milestones in my life was realizing that leadership does not end at the workplace. True leadership extends into the community. I became actively involved in initiatives that supported youth development, education, and professional mentorship. I used my ability to connect with people to bridge gaps create better opportunities and access. I did not seek recognition for this work. Instead, my fulfillment came from watching others grow into confident, capable leaders who understood that success is more meaningful when it is shared. Of course, my journey was not without challenges. There were moments when progress was slow and my patience was tested. But over time, I learned that meaningful change takes time and that patience is not a weakness, it's a leadership discipline. I also learned how to delegate effectively. Letting go allowed others to step into leadership roles, and it freed me to focus on vision, strategy, and long-term impact. In a rapidly changing world shaped by technology, I committed myself to lifelong learning. This helped me to stay relevant and responsive rather than resistant to change. At 70, my proudest achievement is not what I accomplished alone, but what I helped others to achieve. My legacy is reflected in the leaders I mentored, the communities I served. At 70, my proudest achievement is not what I accomplished alone, but what I helped others achieve. My legacy is reflected in the leaders I mentored, the communities I served, and the culture of empathy, responsibility, and inclusion that I helped create. If there is one thing my leadership journey taught me, it is this. Leadership is not about being remembered. It is about leaving people better than you found them. And it all began with the self-awareness, reflection, and intentional growth I started in leadership for. This is the leader I became.